maybe on back-to-run games took a big step forward the last 2 weeks. It seems like the offensive line's blocking better. You've seen that on film too.
Yeah, I think so. But like you said, it makes a big difference when Trey's back there and we get him to the second level. I thought we got him to the second level quite a bit on Saturday, and he was able to really get to the safeties, and he was physical on a couple runs, and he was able to make a couple guys miss. And so I thought, again, we were more efficient in the second half there, but there was a couple things that got us off schedule. Certainly the sack was something that we did not expect, and so puts us in a really tough situation there. But again, the efficiency certainly starts with the offensive line. I think you saw some of that again. I think you're seeing steps forward, and Trey is a big part of that.
Front row, Dave Biddle, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, Jermaine Matthews played as much as he is. I know he was a big-time recruit, enrolled early, but are you kind of surprised how far along he is at this point?
When we recruited Jermaine, we felt like this was a very competitive player. We had him in camp, and at camp, it was a really hot day out there, and he competed the whole day and just kept going and going. Usually guys, and at the time, we hadn't offered him, and he was fighting for a scholarship. He was just hungry. You could see it. And then when he got in here, you saw the same thing. I mean, once the competition started, he was at his best. So you just never know till you get him into those situations. But it seems like the bigger the stage, the more he likes it. And he is nowhere near a finished product, but the competitiveness and the physicality is there. He's been challenged having to step up to be a starter. He's responded to that. And now, that he's put a couple of games on film, he's going to have to now continue that and show consistency.
I want to ask about another true freshman real quick. I know you have depth issues at tight end. Any plans on using Jelani Thurman maybe a little bit?
Yeah. We're trying to build as much depth as we can in that room. I thought that G and Pat both stepped up in a big way. Jelani has an opportunity every day to show that he can be counted on in a game, and he was ready to go in the game if needed, and so we'll keep pushing him to get better. We think he has a tremendous skill set, and he has a very bright future ahead of him. So we're all in on him. So he's the tight end, as we talked about before. The tight end position is a developmental position. There's a lot there. Yep.
Joey Kaufman, Columbus Dispatch.
Ryan, you said after with the punt and when Jesse took off running, there was a miscommunication that happened there.
Yeah.
Now that you've had some time to look back on it, what led up to that?
Well, the ball should have been punted. Never should have been run in that situation. So ultimately, I'm the head coach, and so it comes back on me. But it needs to be communicated better, and it's unacceptable.
Any way the communication happens where it's a miscommunication like that?
I just think the communication has to be clearer. When you make it too gray, you just you make it hard on the player, and no excuse. Jesse needs to punt the ball, but I think as coaches we can be clearer in exactly what we want on a play.
Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
I guess continuing on that subject, this is going back to last season. Obviously, you had two situations last year. You had called punt fakes against Michigan, against Georgia, and they're not lined up right. They're not communicated right there. So, what happened in the offseason that even despite those issues, you decided to extend Parker? You got a raise, and continue what is also sort of an imbalance in the coaching staff between offensive and defensive coaches.
Well, I watch Parker every day, and I see the way he coaches, and I think he's a great teacher and a great coach. And I can just tell you that he works as hard as anybody in the building. But we're all being evaluated every single time we're out there, and it's everybody that's involved in special teams. It's not just the coordinator, although he's ultimately in charge, and I'm ultimately in charge. So you can put it back on me, but clearly, we've everybody who's in charge of special teams, because there's a lot of coaches that are involved with that, in the meetings, can all do a better job, and so we'll just keep pushing to make it better. But we know what the expectation is.
Changing subjects, it seems to be like this dichotomy right now between being pretty excited about the way the offense has looked in the second halves of games, but not so much in the first half. I mean, where is your kind of balance of thought right now between being encouraged by what you're seeing in the second halves, but also maybe wondering when the first half is going to leave you too big of a hole to pull out of.
I felt like there was some good individual performances when you put the film on Saturday, but you still want to see more overall just drives finish. And so the encouraging thing was we had more guys grade out. That was good. We just didn't complete enough drives there and finish with points in the first half. So again, there are definitely signs that we're moving in the right direction, but it's getting late in the season, so our urgency is at an all-time high.
Doug Reese, Kings of Columbus.
Another special teams question. You did in 2020. You did make a coaching adjustment in the midst of the season when a side wasn't performing up to snuff. Have you considered that with special teams to do something in the middle of this season?
No. I think we're gonna stay where we are right now. I feel, again, I'm there every day. I'm watching how things are taught, and we all need to be a part of it. As a coaching staff, if I felt there was something that was not being taught right or done right, then I certainly would intercede. But I'm in those meetings. I see what goes on, and so we just need to do a better job. But like anything, we'll continue to evaluate it and make sure that we're doing what's best for the players.
And a handful of plays last week during the season when you've had two running backs on the field. We know Chip is sort of like a fullback sometimes in those situations, but what does it give you every now and then when you maybe have Travion and Chip out there together? What does that do to the defense?
Well, it gives you two ball carriers, and when that happens, they have to at least defend you a little bit differently. There's different schemes that you have to defend, and both of those guys bring a different skill package to the table. And when you're in three wide receivers with one tight end, they defend you a certain way. When you bring in another running back, it's just the spacing's different, the schemes are different, the angles are different. And sometimes when you can change that up, it opens up things in other areas, so a team isn't just focused on one personnel grouping or one scheme. And so to mix those things in is healthy. Now, you have to be efficient with it, and you have to figure out where you want to spend your time to get really good. But both of those guys give us something on the field at the same time.
Austin Ward, it's a podcast, Rivals.
Ryan, I'm wondering if there's been any sort of philosophical change with the way that you all manage the injuries. In that, Emeka could go, held him out. Cade, emergency, held him out. Travion. I know that the training staff is ultimately going to make that decision. It's not all in your hands, but is there anything to that maybe after last year, or maybe not with Jackson, I don't know, that you want guys healthier at the end of the year and you're more willing to play a patient game than you might have been in the past?
I don't think that's exactly it. I don't think it really has much to do with last year. I think in the situations that you're talking about guys who will do anything to get back on the field. I just think those are two very unique situations, and both guys are available and just like, Coach, I'm ready to go into the game, and we identify it and say, yeah, you could probably an emergency role, and you are available in case something happens, but you're not at 100%, and so it's the training staff's job to make that decision. And then for me, hey, listen, he's not where he needs to be. If he needed to play 10 to 15 to 20 plays, he could do that. But certainly in the long run, it'd be better off if he didn't. That's the conversation. And so, every situation is unique, and that's why I lean to the doctors and I lean to the sports medicine folks that give me that advice.
What's the calculus for you if that's the information that's presented and it's 10 to 15? Are you just, is it the score of the game? Is it the opponent you're playing that week? I mean, it's all of that.
All the above. Yeah. I mean, every week you're trying to figure out, okay, how do you win this game? And then how does it affect the rest of the season? And you do everything you possibly can to put your guys in that position. And all of those things come into play.
Clay Hall, WSYX.
Might have some news from the Big Ten tomorrow. I know you're probably not going to comment on that, but I just noticed an email this morning that you can now bet on a celebrity boxing match between you and the guy who coaches up north. Are you in a good mood, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, I get it, Clay. I know that it's the topic of conversation right now,
I'm
but
asking you to say
yeah.
you're gonna whoop this guy. I'm just curious if you've ever been in the ring, ever sparred.
I appreciate you, Clay.
What's your best punt?
I'm not going to say anything. I get commented on when I say no comment, so I'm not going to say anything.
Tom Sperry, WBNS.
You've said the number one goal is obviously to win. This time of the year, how hard is it, though, to win these games?
Well, I think it goes to your discipline, it goes to your consistency, it goes to your leadership, it goes to your maturity to understand what it takes. Nobody's entitled to winning. And we win a lot of games around here, but it's because of the hard work of the players on the field. And it's the week. It's getting their body up to where it needs to be. That this time of year, that's not easy to do. I mean, these guys, they're putting it on the line. They're preparing their bodies. Whether it's the ice baths, whether it's the treatment, eating right, hydrating, sleep. I mean, that's a lot to this run that we're on. Getting their mind right, preparing every week is a different opponent. And then obviously getting your spirit and soul ready to go put it on the line every Saturday. You don't just show up in football and play. I mean, you got to put it on the line. And so every week it's, you build up that fuel tank and you just let it all out in the field. And then you come back and you try to figure out how to get that thing loaded up the most you possibly can to go do it again. And that's going to be the same thing Saturday night. I give Coach Barnett a lot of credit for how he's handled himself, and certainly in a tough situation. They came back and won a game last week, and so like you said, this time of year when you're playing in the Big Ten, you got to bring it, and you see it every single week. So those are the things that we focus on, is every week trying to be consistent, and then hopefully that consistency over time builds momentum, and that it pays off down the road.
How do you think your guys handled the number one ranking? I know you want to be number one at the end of the year, but they throw that on you now. You have that moniker.
I think you have so many guys on our team that have just kind of been through all of this before, and they know it means absolutely nothing, and their goal is to win the whole thing and to be the number one team at the end of the year. So, we want to win them all, and that's all that matters. And so at the end, they'll rank us, but we're just going to try to win them all, and it continues this Saturday.
Far left, Joe Nugent, WCMH.
Big win by the Houston Texans. Another great job by CJ. What do you think of the success that he's having as a rookie this year?
Well, I think he deserves all the success that he's receiving. This is somebody who, went through kind of a tough time during the draft process, and really, a lot of people kind of questioned him in certain ways, and you never saw him react anyway. I thought he's handled himself like a pro. The guys on that team, I think they voted him captain, right? I mean, he's a captain there for a rookie right out of the gate is tremendous. He walked in and endeared himself to that organization, and now you're starting to see him perform on the field, and he's given that organization hope, and you're seeing it. I think it's the same thing Garrett Wilson did with the New York Jets last year. He gave them hope. I think our guys understand what the expectation is that, you're there to win every game, and so it was great to see him, quickly jump into that role and have the success he's had, and still a lot of football ahead of him, though.
Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
When you go back and look at Kyle's performance on Saturday, just what did you like about what he did, and then were there things that maybe he wasn't seeing down the field that he maybe missed that you guys went over?
Nothing down the field, no. I mean, they were in a pretty too high shelf the entire game, so there wasn't much down the field. Safeties were 20 to 25 yards deep on both sides for the majority of the time, and certainly the interception on the 2-minute drill, the ball needs to be layered better. That was the Will linebacker who made that play, and so he knows that. But I thought he was efficient. I thought he checked the ball down when, if they're saying you're not going to throw the ball down the field, you have to be willing to take the check down. And a good example of that was in the first drive. They put a cover 2 on it. He checked the ball down to Emeka, nice and easy, simple football, 10-yard gain, and we keep moving the chains. And that's what you have to be willing to do, is identify what you're getting and then make the right read. So there was some of that. Even the check down to Travion was well done. The timing was right. So, I think we could have done a little bit better job of helping him on a couple of the things. We could have thrown it better, caught it better. But if it wasn't for the interception, he would have graded out a champion. I thought overall he graded out well, but anytime you throw an interception and turn the ball over, you're not going to be graded out that way. So, again, I thought there was progress made. He started off well, had a bunch of completions in a row. That was good. Something that, we've been focused on trying to get into a rhythm early in the game. So, some real good there. And he's got to take the next step here again this week.
Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Ryan, might have been your best day in the red zone as far as efficiency. I know at times you talk about it's just mainly execution more than anything, but what did you see from the red zone?
Well, I thought there was precision down there, like you're saying. I think the throw, I forget what yard line we were with G, but the throw and catch was tremendous. And then the couple throws that Kyle made to Marvin were really well done as well. I mean, highly high efficiency there. And then the run game. I mean, we were running downhill on a couple of those, and every yard is worth 2, and we got vertical on those, and just overall ran the ball better and had more efficiency in the pass game.
How is Devin doing in his recovery?
Yeah, good. Hopefully have a full week this week and be available. He was available on Saturday, so that was good, but another week of not playing certainly allows him to heal even more. So he'll be getting close to 100% here soon.
Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, I wanted to clarify on the fake punt. Was it called a fake punt and Jesse just saw something and ran? Was that the situation?
No. I mean, you have a rollout punt, and there are certain times where if nobody's out in front of you, you can take it. And we usually roll out to our right. We rolled out to our left in that spot, and so there was an overload to the right, and so the decision we just made too quickly, and they were able to rally to it. And so once you get the ball in that spot, we want the ball punted.
Following up on Kyle, we've seen him have some really good stretches in games, and then like 11 for 11 to start, then he goes 1 for 5, then he comes back and plays well at the end. Sometimes it's been first half, second half. When you guys look at good stretches versus bad stretches, are you seeing anything, trends or anything for him when it's working and when it's clicking, and maybe when it's not?
The only thing I can recognize is when his feet are right and his eyes are right, that's when he's at his best. I don't know if I can recognize anything in particular other than that. I think there's been some times maybe earlier in the game where his feet are moving a little bit faster or maybe a little bit slower than the game, but once he's found the rhythm of the game and his feet are in rhythm, that's when he's been at his best.
Is there a way to get him that way earlier in games?
Yeah, a little bit. You try to find things that he's comfortable with, but sometimes you can't always predict it the right way, and you have to continually get more and more experience behind you so that you can get that feel for it. But a big part of it is during the week, trying to give him those looks so that and I thought he did a nice job of that in the game. There was some things that came up where you're looking for a route down the field, all of a sudden there's just like bodies right there. You find the check down, and that's good football. And it just now you have to be disciplined enough to do that, and you have to be able to execute those things. But I thought there was some good decisions made there.
Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, it looked like Tommy hurt his arm at the end of the game. Is he okay?
Yeah, it was another physical game, and it's like you come out of the game and you go in there and try to identify what happened with everybody. So we'll keep trying to get these guys treatment the best we can. That's kind of what I was talking about when it comes to bodies. Everyone's kind of this time of year is struggling. So, yeah, I mean, I expect them to be out there today, and we'll kind of see how the week goes. But this time of year, you're gonna have a lot of guys with bumps and bruises for sure.
Denzel and Lathan, are you expecting to have either of them back this week?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we're expecting Denzel to have a pretty good week of work here. Lathan, I think we're probably going to continue to identify kind of where he's at, maybe later in the week. But yeah, Denzel will be out there today.
Tony Herman, Buckeye Huddle.
Ryan, with your secondary, last year you guys started 5 corners and 5 safeties throughout the year. This year you're already at 4 corners and I think 5 safeties. What's been the difference in keeping that level despite still playing a bunch of guys?
Well, I think it comes down to just the recruiting and making sure you have the right guys there, but then also the experience. You think about where now Jordan is and Denzel, and you added IGB into the mix. Jermaine Matthews was able to step up in a big way though. And I just think overall we just have more depth than we've had there and just more experience where maybe in the past we were playing young guys, freshmen, or sophomores that hadn't played a lot.
What does it do for your recruiting when you can point and say, we've started freshman corners each of the last 3 years?
It's big. It's big. It's huge. Yeah. And the response we've got from the recruits has been excellent. They see it. They're looking real close, because one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually see it. And so we make sure that they see it.
Far right, Adam King, WBNS.
Back in the summer, you said you were going to work more with defense and try to, be a CEO a little bit more. Obviously, the offense has kind of been the sticking point this year. What's that been like to maybe not have to worry about the defense at all and be able to just focus on that?
Yeah, it's huge. And Jim and his staff have done a great job. Tim and Larry and Perry, they've all been a big part of the day to day, and so it's huge as we make this run. But ultimately, I got to make sure everything's in place, and we got to have all three phases going in the right direction here and be at our best.
Kyle, obviously you can coach him up every game, but at some point you're kind of looking for him to take that next step. Is there anything else you can do at this point, or is it just getting him reps in the game and hoping it just kind of breaks out?
Oh yeah. No, you keep grinding on it. You keep working at it. Constantly. Yeah. I mean, you never, change that part of it. No, I mean, Kyle has been here for a couple years, but he still hasn't played a ton of football. So the more he gets out there, the more you grind on it, the more you learn, the better off you're going to be. You think about those guys who have been in the NFL for, 8-10 years, some guys longer than that. They just have such an advantage over everybody because they've seen it so much. And so the guys who can learn quickest from their mistakes are usually ones that get better the fastest. So, we stay after it, just like every position, but certainly quarterback is the one that's most visible.
Spencer Holbrook, 11 in row.
Right, it's not that the offensive line doesn't like the other running backs, but it seems like they're blocking harder since they got back, and the run game just looks a little cleaner. Have you seen that, and just how much of a difference does just having Trey in there make it look cleaner?
It's probably, maybe it's a little bit of both there, but I think I mentioned that before. It's everybody involved. It's the receivers getting in there and digging people out. It's the tight ends and their blocks. It's the quarterback making sure we get into the right play, or possibly reading somebody, or if it's a read or an RPO, making sure that we're not running into an overloaded box at times. It's making sure that as coaches we put them into the right play. I mean, it's everybody involved. But when you're having success, you just believe more. You start to see more of a confidence, and that's probably what you're recognizing.
Tim May on 3.
Thank you, Jerry. When you watch a quarterback, do you ever step back about this point in the season and kind of in your mind have a chart on how he's progressing? You understand what I'm saying? Because I would think everybody starts out reticent, then they get bold, and then they get bit by being bold, and then they get reticent again and stuff. And is Kyle kind of on that chart where you want him to be, if you follow my drift, of awareness, but also not being stupid with the ball, and just, what I mean? Just, do you actually have that in mind?
Well, I think, there's certain things that you have to learn from, and you don't know until you've actually done them. You don't know until you've been, stripped. You don't know until, you got a zero pressure and you don't have a place to go with the ball. You learn all those things. You try to do the best you can as a coach to get out in front of those and give them a plan. But ultimately, you have to be a problem solver at quarterback. And, so we'll see. I mean, there's still so much football left. We're going to keep going at it this week and, kind of see where he's at. But it is. I mean, it's for everybody, but for Kyle as well, just that build-up of continually getting that experience to go play his best football here down the stretch.
Josh Proctor had a great thing to say on Saturday. I mean, interesting thing. He said it before, but the defense's motto is if they have an inch to defend, they're going to defend it.
Yeah.
You've seen these goal line stands and these stands in the red zone. First one, you kind of go, okay, blah, blah. Seems to be a trend here that's favorable for you guys. Do you see that also? And what is the difference do you see in this defense, especially when it gets in the red zone, that it's just jumped out at you?
Yeah, that's something that Jim brought here immediately. Give us an inch, we'll defend it, and the guys believe in that and they embrace it. So even when a big play breaks out, if we can get them on the ground, that can be a 4-point play. And I think just a big part of it is confidence and belief that the guy next to me is going to do my job, and if I do my job, and we're all in this thing together, we can stop these guys. And And that's all situational football that we've been screaming all off season. You know, if you can win in the red zone, like we won in the red zone pretty handily. You know, we scored 4 touchdowns on offense, and I think stopped them I think they were 1 for 4, I think. When you do something like that and force field goals in that spot, and you're scoring touchdowns on the other side of the ball, those are all 4-point plays. And the guys have embraced that. And so, you know, we'll get together Tuesday as our first and second down. We're talking about running the football, you know, winning first down, taking care of the football, explosive plays. Then we come back on Wednesday. It's about third down, short yardage, red zone, goal line, the situations. And I think the guys really have understood that and embraced what exactly is going on, the time, the down and distance, the situation in the game, and those have been huge plays for us.
I know you're not going to comment, but I'm going to ask anyway. When you see your family's name brought up in situations like what has been going on for the last several weeks, does that make you angry? What obviously it has been brought to one reporter's attention that they have no evidence of anything like that occurring. But how do you handle all that tornado that's going on, along with what you're dealing with inside the building?
Yeah, I just, you know, right now, all you can do is focus on what's important. And what's important right now is Michigan State. And so we always say ignore the noise. The noise comes in different ways. We've talked about how, like, for instance, the defense, they've played really well to this point. And, last year took a lot of heat for that. And so, they're getting a lot of positive reinforcement. You have to ignore that noise. Like you said, ranked number 1 in the country, that's noise. And there's a lot of other noise out there. And so we have to get rid of all that stuff. And the team that can get rid of the distractions and ignore the noise the most this time of year gives them their best chance to play their best football. And so we're all going to do that, whether it's coaches or players.
Thank you. Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, one more kind of about related to the injury stuff. I know that you never overlook an opponent, but Michigan State and then Minnesota, I mean, your big favorites knows you have a huge game, obviously, at the end. How much do you weigh, I want to make sure these guys are healthy, and obviously we've got to win the game, but I want to make sure that they're healthy for the game. How do you kind of weigh that? Is that on your mind now?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how we need to be playing our best at the end of the year, and a big part of that, like we talked about earlier, your body, your mind, your soul, and part of it is your body. And so these guys work hard, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that they're fresh, and try to make the best decision. It's one of those things where you can't just say one thing that covers everybody or covers the whole situation. Each guy is a little bit unique, each situation's unique. What's our depth look like? Those type of things. But our guys know how important every game is. I mean, this is a very important game. We've got to play well in this game, and so that's where the focus is. And when you start thinking about anything else, you can get yourself out of whack. And so we won't do that. But we also want to be fresh down the stretch, like we're talking about. This is down the stretch, but we'll evaluate it each week, each situation, the best we can, and make the decision that we think gives us the best chance.
And a question about Jordan Hancock. I mean, he's been obviously pretty important given his versatility and plays he's made. Is there anything kind of behind the scenes that you have seen, that you saw in him, maybe from last year to this year, that is responsible for some of the transformation?
I think Jordan, 2 things. One is extremely competitive. Extremely competitive. You saw that right when he jumped in the program. Just recognize that part of it. And the second thing is he has a tremendous work ethic. I mean, he's in here a lot watching film on his own, constantly wearing out Coach Walt. He works hard at it. He's another guy who has a tremendous work ethic and is also very competitive. And when you combine those 2 things with his ability, you're starting to see some production. And that was a big play he had on Saturday for sure.
Bill Landis, the podcast, Kings.
You mentioned the sack you guys took in the first half of the game. What happened on that play?
I don't. It was a unique play. We've never really seen it before. The nickel and the will came at the same time. I don't know if there was a miscommunication on their end or what happened, but it caught us off guard, and it's not something we were expecting. So I don't know exactly how it played out, but the line was going one way and both guys came. So very unique, but I'm glad that Kyle held on to that one because we weren't prepared for that. And so we made an adjustment to make sure that, moving forward, if that were to get called again, it was executed on defense that way, that we were ready for it. It didn't happen again. So, just I wrote it off as a one-off, and he held on to the ball, and we just had to move on. And I think it was 2nd and 19, and would love to see us get half back there. Took the flat, but when you take a hit like that you're not expecting, you can get rattled quick as a quarterback. And so he had to get his feet back underneath him, and at the end of the play we ended up pooching. And I know that's not a great scenario. That's not what we want to be. We want to score points in that spot, but we didn't turn the ball over, and we don't want to lose the ball in 3rd and extra long. So overall, I thought Kyle in that moment handled himself well. That's how that played out.
So maybe that play doesn't apply technically, but just sort of in general, like seeing where you think pressure is going to come from. I know sometimes it's hard when it's coming from depth. Like, how do you think Kyle, Carson, the tackles have all sort of handled that and communicated that this year?
I think there's been good times, but there's also things that we got to do better. And defenses do a great job of changing up the looks. The minute you think you got them, here comes another twist or another guy coming from another way. And as a coach, it's like, well, if it looks like this, they really can't bring that guy, and then all of a sudden they bring him and run a guy over. And so you have to be able to react. You have to be able to identify what they're doing early in the game. And I remember a coach telling me one time that used to go against, Peyton Manning, that early in the game they'd bring something that he hadn't seen before, and the first thing he'd do is just throw it over his head. They'd punt, and you weren't going to get him again. But that play wasn't going to ruin the game. And so sometimes, when they get you schematically, you got to take care of the football and just hang in and cut your losses, as opposed to the ball going up in the air and ruining the whole day. We don't want that, but there's some good schemes out there and good coaches. And so, there were a couple on Saturday, but then I thought we settled down a little bit on 3rd down. Well, we did. We did a much better job on 3rd down in the second half.
All right, I want to try to get to everybody, but I'm going to have to limit it to one question. Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
I think, you mentioned the red zone efficiency on both sides of the ball on Saturday. Obviously, Penn State, 3rd downs, especially on defense, were big. Have you seen a situational improvement from this team as the year has progressed, and what do you think has caused that?
Well, it was a big emphasis for us in the offseason. Yeah, if we want to win games, we have to win the situations. Big emphasis. Go through them, coach them. Now, we'll see down the stretch if it pays off for us, but it's been something that we talk about after every game. We identify each of the situations. There's 12 situations that we want to win, and then our whole offseason was about competing. And then, if you're competing to win those situations, your chances of winning go way up. And so I think on Saturday we were 8 wins, 2 losses, and 2 ties. So that's me going to win the game. Won the game by 19 points. Now, there's some things that we could have done better, and it would have been a different game. But if you win in the red zone, I think short yardage, we won big. I think we were on offense, we were maybe 5 for 5, and on defense, was really good too. I forget exactly what it was, maybe 2 for 5. So now you're 7 for 10 or something like close like that. And so working hard to make sure we win that 1st down, explosive plays. I think explosive plays were even, but we counted Jordan Hancock's as an explosive play. So that made it 5-4. That was an explosive play. It changed the whole game. So now I think our guys get it. I think you see even on the 4th down play where, they snapped it and then handed it off to the guy behind, and then he gets around the edge. IGB and those guys are fighting like crazy. We had 5 guys sprinting to get him down on the ground because they believe we get him on the ground, we can play some red zone defense. Those are 4-point plays. So I do think there's some awareness there. I think our guys have had some awareness in 2-minute. We've had to win a game in a 2-minute already this year, and some things at the end of the half. So not perfect by any means, but it's been an emphasis.
Dylan Davis, Delaware Gazette.
You talk a lot about competitive stamina. Can you learn as much about your team from a game like this as you would as a big game where everybody's going to get up for it? I guess I know that obviously it's still a big game for you guys, but big favorites at home, prime time. Can you learn as much about a team from how they handle this kind of situation as opposed to a big game scenario?
I think you learn different things. Yeah, but you're always learning, and I think you've heard me say this before. The issues are always there, whether they get brought to the forefront in a game where it comes down to one play or not. That's our job to identify those as coaches, and so I do that with the team, and I know that the coaches do with their units. Regardless of who you're playing, the issues are there, and so you have to identify what those issues are, that, need to get fixed, and the things that are going well need to be enhanced. So we watch on offense and defense, we watch clips of the good plays, the things we got to continue to build on, and the plays that, hey, man, like if we don't get this thing fixed, it's going to be a problem down the road. And I think the guys appreciate that, and they know that we're continually working to get better because, if we've learned this year, it can come down to a play or two. We certainly know that coming off of last year.
Jeremy Birmingham, the podcast.
Brian, you guys all year, I think you probably will admit, haven't played a complete game offensively, and it seems like things ramp up in the second half every week where you are more efficient and maybe a little bit cleaner. You lost Kevin Wilson in the offseason, and it hasn't really been talked about, the alignment of the staff, who's upstairs, who's on the field. Is there anything to that discussion? Like, you have guys in the box that are relatively inexperienced compared to what Kevin was. Do you guys think about changing that at all, or is there any? Do you attribute the success in the second half to getting a chance to collect those thoughts at halftime?
I don't know. I think that one of the things we've tried to do is really establish the run game this year, probably maybe more than last couple of years with CJ. And, it sometimes takes a little time for you to establish the run game. And, I think you're starting to see that happen as the game goes on. You start to see those 3-yard hits get to 4 and 5, and then you start to see the 5 and 6s get to, a little bit more explosive plays, and then it opens up more things in the pass game. But there's no question that we want to be faster. We want to be moving out of the gates. We want to be more efficient. We want to score. But, part of the run game too is, making hard 3s and 4s early on. And so what that forces you to do is you got to be really good on third down. And that's to me what didn't happen on Saturday. We didn't execute on third down in the first half. And because if you can convert on those third downs and you can start to wear on the run game a little bit, that's when every play gets a little better. So I think it more has to do with, being more efficient on third down, especially early in the game.
You said before, you don't want to bang your head into the wall, but that's happened pretty much every game this season. Is there a point where you say, we tried it, it's not where we wanted it in the first half, and let's adjust, or is it just keep plodding along?
Well, it's working with the team, right? I mean, that's the first thing you identify is, is it giving you an opportunity to win the game? Now, if all of a sudden, the game changes and, starts to become back and forth or whatever, then you may have to change your philosophy. But, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to win that game, and then we go from there. If we have to, well, I'm just saying, if we have to come out and just, throw the ball every snap, then we'll do that too. But the balance is what we're looking for. And so we'll just keep grinding on it.
Last question, Steve Hellwagen, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach, Josh Proctor, I think on the goal line had back-to-back tackles on second and third down, and then has the hit for the interception as well. Kind of an unsung hero, maybe around so many other guys on that defense. Just what he bring, I guess, in those situations, and is he okay after kind of getting a little knocked out there?
Yeah. I think he's going to be ready to roll here. We'll keep looking at it, but tough player, productive player. Been through a lot, been through injuries, been through a few years here, seen the good, the bad, but he's still here and graded out a champion, and that was one heck of a play. He never broke stride. And that was a big-time collision, and did a great job of just veering off of him enough not to make contact, with his head. And that's not easy to do when you're going full speed like that. I mean, and you're making, split-second decisions, and that ball squirts up in the air to Jordan. That was a huge play in the game. So, yeah, we're counting on him to be a guy that we can, rely on down the stretch to be a big part of our defense because he's a veteran guy that certainly has a lot of ability.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Sure, as always, appreciate everybody coming out. A little bit about the Penn State game, obviously, did not perform to our ability, did not perform to our standard. It was really disappointing, but we got beat by a really good team. We got outcoached, we got outplayed. And as I told our team yesterday, we didn't watch the tape. Of the 4 losses we've had, this one is one that is not even worth watching the tape because we came nowhere close to the standard that we have come to expect for our program. And that game showed us that we're not there yet. As I look at that game and as we watched it as a staff, obviously, to make the corrections, we're still our own worst enemy in terms of, Terps versus Terps. You can't lose the turnover battle 4-0, the explosive play battle, and expect to win, and that's not what we've done. And so what we've got to do is, obviously, starting with me and the staff, is, instead of looking in terms of what the problem is, we know what the problems are. We've got to protect the football. We've got to execute. We've got to tackle. We've got to play to the standard. But we focused on trying to be solution-based, as I've always tried to do with any part of our program. And, I've challenged everyone from the coaches, players, and staff. When you start looking to figure out kind of what the problem is, ask what can I do to be part of the solution, and that's the approach we'll take. It's a way to do it. 3 of the 4 losses, we've been right where we wanted to be and just didn't close it. This one, we never got started, and so credit to Penn State and their staff and the job they've done. I challenge each person, like I said, to look within themselves first and foremost and ask the question, what can I do better? And for me as the head coach and for me as the leader, that's always where I start. That's always be who I am in terms of how I lead, is what can I do first and foremost to get us back on track. And we're not as far away as maybe some people may think. Again, the people in that building continue to show up each week. We had another good practice on Monday, but as I told our guys, it's not about having just good practices. It's about being able to execute on game day the things that we do all week long. We have another great opportunity this week against a good, hard, well-coached Nebraska team on the road in the Big Ten, a historic venue there, Memorial Stadium, a great place to play. I've played there or coached there before. They've got great fan support. Win, lose, or draw, they show up there and support their program, and I got a lot of respect for the job Matt Rule has done. When you look at those guys on film, they're really tough, hard-nosed, well-coached, play with tremendous effort. They've got a really good defense. Their defense is one of the top defenses that we'll face. Some interior guys that are strong, heavy-handed guys up front. Their linebackers are really good tacklers in space, and they execute their defensive scheme really well. On offense, I've seen an offense that's gotten better and better with each week when you watch them on tape. Obviously they've made the change at the quarterback position, and the kids playing fairly well for them from the standpoint of executing the things that they want to see get executed. They've got a really good offensive line, really good length and size on the both tackles, especially the right side of the line where they bring back a lot of experience. I expect this to be a tough game for us, but I also expect from knowing the team that I have in that locker room and the staff that we have, we still have a lot to play for. We're still hunting bowl eligibility. We're not going to let what's happened in the past define what we do in the present, and our players have embraced that. And I'm looking forward to, our players and our staff doing the necessary things Monday through Friday, and then Saturday having an opportunity to go play well. It's been a long time since we've had a victory, and this team deserves it because of the way they've worked, and I have no problem continuing to push these guys, and they continue to show up, and I expect them to do that this Saturday as we go on the road to Lincoln. Our captains for this week, Donnell Brown, Antoine Littleton, and DJ Glaze will lead us as captains as we head to Lincoln, and with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Good afternoon, Mike.
Dave, what's up?
Not much. Nebraska leads the Big Ten in stopping the run. If you could expand on what makes them so special defensively, and then conversely, running has been an issue for you guys from time to time this season. What's been slipping through the cracks?
Yeah, with them and their run defense, it starts with the size and their 2 interior players. I mean, they have a unique defensive structure that they play. They base out of a 4-down front, but they're an umbrella 5 safety or 3 safety look with 2 corners and a nickel, and they execute their scheme really, really well. I mean, they move a lot up front on the interior part of their defense. They have a lot of what we call ETs and NTs and NEs, where they try to cancel the gaps, and then their linebackers really do a great job of tackling the ball in space. Their safety number 2 is kind of the guy that makes the defense go, and he's a deep third, deep middle field player, but they also involve him quite a bit in the run game. And so, when you look at the way they play run defense, it starts with the amount of numbers they get in the box and to the ball. Our inability to run the ball just comes with our inability to execute, and we've struggled with the interior part of our run game. When you try to run zone schemes and gap schemes, which are the two primary things we like to run, we've got to be able to be stout or more stout in the interior part where we don't allow penetration. We don't allow guys to get knocked back on us, which doesn't allow our backs to start and get momentum coming downhill. We're going to work real hard this week to figure out how the best way is for us to run the football. And there's no doubt, as you prepare and play in the Big Ten, the ability to run the ball, especially this time of the year, is really important. So we're working hard to get the run game corrected and figure out what are the best runs and the best way for us to run the ball based on what we're doing on our offensive line and based on what our backs can get executed.
And this team was once 5-0. How do you get these kids, 18 to 22-year-old kids? How do you get them back in that mindset, believing again? I know it's easy to say you got to believe, but as a coach, how do you do that?
You know what? It's with open, honest communication. It's one thing to be positive and put a smile on your face and show up and say, hey, it's going to eventually turn and be okay. But it's another thing to understand the reality of where we are. It's been 5 weeks since we've had a victory. And so I told our players, we got to understand that we didn't watch the Penn State tape. We didn't play to the best of our ability. But here's the reality of where we are. We're a 5-4 team. We have an opportunity to be bowl eligible 3 years in a row still. We have, the last quarter of our season or the last third of our season starts with this game. So it's almost like a fresh start. And it's about how you finish, which is one of the paramounts or pillars of our program, is starting fast and finishing strong. And so, this is like a fresh start for us. The best part about being the coach of this team is, and I said this to them yesterday after practice, there hasn't been one day I've shown up, and I've been a part of some teams here where we've had losing streaks longer than 4 weeks. And you can tell by the energy on the field that it's going to be a long, long day or a long, long week. This team is not that team. They are built for the adversity. They're built for the turbulence that we're facing. I can tell you that we're facing it together. We know that the only people that believe in us right now is us. And as long as they continue to show up with the right mindset as a coach and as a leader, I'm going to continue to coach the crap out of them, push them, and we still have a lot of things, good things to play for. And I think they see that and they believe it.
Mike, as far as turnovers and explosives, what can you do in practice maybe to kind of target those areas and get them fixed?
The turnovers are the ones that, we do ball security drills every single day. If you look at the way the game went Saturday, we had one critical turnover that happened in the course of the game. And, as the game got out of hand, obviously everything kind of snowballed downhill with the 3 late turnovers. And, unfortunately for us, we have very little margin for error. And, you go back and look at the Ty Felton fumble coming off of a big run, and it was extra yardage. That's a play that, obviously I'm a little disappointed because, I thought that, the whistle had been blown to blow the play dead. And, for whatever reason, it is what it is. And those are the types of plays where, again, he was protecting the ball. He had a vice tackle. We worked the vice tackle drill. He's just got to put the offhand. So it's a point of emphasis every week. Trying to get turnovers on defense, it's just, again, we've got to continue to, in practice, go after the football. We didn't have very many opportunities Saturday where I thought that we were getting after the football. And the explosives, we've got explosive players. What we've got to do is obviously most of our explosiveness comes from the perimeter players. We've got to be able to protect a little bit, but also a guy's got to make a play, make a guy miss, and we've got explosive players still. I mean, we're still the same team in terms of the types of players, but what we've got to do now is generate them, and we've got to put them in the best position as coaches with how we call it. We've also have to make sure that our best players are touching the football, and I don't think right now, when you look and see Roman Hemby having 7 touches and, Caden Prather having however many he had in that game and Jayshon Jones, we have to make sure we're keeping those players involved with how we call it and not just call plays because they are good schematic plays, but good schematic plays, they get our best players the ball. And usually when you get your best player the ball, they make plays for you. So it's just a matter of a few of those things.
Hey, Coach.
Taylor, what's up?
What's going on? After the game on Saturday, you said, quote, I don't think they're 51-15 better than us. Just now you said we're closer than some people may think. What are you seeing in your team that gives you the confidence that you're closer to a team like Penn State than the score would indicate?
Well, that it was a competitive game, and up until the third quarter when we turned the ball over and we kind of, we cut it within 2 scores, and then we give up the big long kickoff return. You know, a year ago against a really good Penn State team, it was from start to finish not very good. We're playing spurts of good football. You know, you think of the 3 quarters against Ohio State, you think of the last half against Illinois, you think of the last half against Northwestern. Both those games we ran out of time at the end. This was the one game that we've played all season where, you know, I just didn't think that we competed. A lot of times it's Terps versus Terps, but again, you got to give Penn State credit. They're a good football team.
So that, going off that 36-point margin of defeat is pretty close to the average margin of defeat for you guys against those top teams over the last few years. If it's a matter of not playing up to your potential and your standard, like you said, what's it going to take to, you know, get over that and start doing that against the teams that you haven't been able to?
It starts with the work you put in during the week, and as I told our team, everybody has to do a little bit better, just a little bit better. A little bit better at how we focus to prepare, a little bit better in how we're recovering to get our bodies right to play and play at our best on Saturday. As a coach, putting a little more time into making sure that the plan that we put together, our players know, because it ain't what we know, it's what they know. So just everybody doing a little bit of their job a little bit better. That's what it's going to take.
And then on Saturday, we saw Kevin Sumlin back on the field pregame. Is he back with the team and
He's
full
back
role?
with the team.
The full role he was in before.
He's back with the team. Yep.
Good afternoon, Coach.
What's up, David?
Good afternoon. Nebraska, they're rushing the ball a lot. 44 average runs in the last 4 games, over 150 yards. This past Saturday, gave up 114 of 180 yards against Penn State runs up the middle. So how is that something that something you might emphasize? That Nebraska's certainly going to see that. So where did you see corrections needing to be made there, and how do you adjust to that?
Yeah, you know, I think the biggest runs that we gave up against Penn State were the quarterback runs. A couple zone reads that were not typical runs that they shown. That quarterback made some plays in the run game where, you know, assignment football-wise, we didn't take care of our jobs. As far as stopping the run, the biggest difference I saw was the knockback tackles. You know, Penn State had a lot of yards after contact, which typically means we got to get guys running to the football again, running to the ball better. You know, to me, the run game has not been the issue in terms of consistently. We've given up some explosive runs, but most of them have come from the quarterback. And now what we've got to be able to do against a good Nebraska team is it goes back to, you know, it's no secret formula how you stop the run in our defense. You have to have guys in their gaps that they're responsible for being in. You've got to do a good job of getting off blocks, and then we've got to do a great job of tackling.
Hey, Mike, how's it going?
George, what's up?
Not much. These last 3 games, specifically Illinois, Northwestern, and Penn State, when you review the tape, is it the same thing that's kind of sticking out that's causing you to lose that momentum from playing that good spurts of football? Or is it just execution? You're doing the things that you have set up to work, should work, but they're not being executed.
You know what? I'm one of those guys, man. I am not a dude that likes to place blame anywhere other than right here with myself. And I'm not going to even get into it in terms of, you know, it starts with what can I do? We know the problems, all right? Up front, on our interior part of our offensive line, we're trying to figure out, you know, how to manage that and get the best players in there and be able to execute. Our quarterback, he's how he goes, we go. So he started the first half of the Penn State game 17-17. I didn't realize it, didn't know it, but the consistency in our drives. We're an offense that really thrives off of explosive plays because we have explosive players. The missing piece for us on the offensive side is, can we drive the ball down? What happens when the explosives aren't showing up? Can we show the discipline and the execution to consistently get the 4 or 5 yards, to convert the 4th and 1s, the 3rd and 1s, to extend drives? To me, those are the things, and that's where I put a lot of the energy of my actions into, is how do I get us to where we're not a big little offense where it's either big explosive plays and we're moving the ball down the field, or it's 3 and outs where we're missing blocks on the perimeter, or we're not executing the things we're getting coached to do. But also as a coach, it's our jobs to make sure that the right players are in and that the right players are getting the ball.
And you talked a lot this season about, you know, player-led culture and accountability. Going through a spurt of adversity here, are those the same players you're seeing stepping up to try to rally your troops, or is it new people that are stepping up?
That's been the most encouraging thing for me, is that there's not been a change, there has not been a waiver of how these players have shown up. You know, I met with the leadership group the last 2 Mondays because I think when you're in the situation we're in, it's important to hear where we are as a team, and you hear it from inside. And with the leadership group that we've put together, our leadership council is about 16 players, all demographics, all different classes, all different positions. And I can tell you that sitting in there with that group, it starts with them telling me, I say, where are we? They said, Coach, you know what? This is about us, all right? You know, we got to take care of our business. So, you know, they've been trained and developed because they know that nobody gives us anything here at the University of Maryland. Everything we get, we got to take, we got to earn, we got to fight for. You know, it was great to start out 5-0, but we also know we're also in the reality of a 4-game losing streak. And the only people that are going to get us out of it will be the people in Jones Hill House. And we ain't quitting. Quitting is not an option. And that's the part that this team, I love about them, and I'm going to continue to coach the crap out of them. And we'll find a way to get 6, which helps us extend our season, and we'll continue the process of developing this team to compete for championships.
Mike, you mentioned going to Memorial Stadium in Lincoln and the atmosphere and everything that entails. What are the biggest keys, I guess, that you see as you know, the things that teams have to do to win on the road in this league, especially late in the season when it starts to get colder and so forth?
Yeah, the good thing is the weather's supposed to be 60 degrees there, which, you know, I'm knocking on wood that we are blessed to be able to have that type of weather this late in the year in Lincoln. But what do we need to do to get a win on the road is we got to play to our standard. And again, that's such a coaching cliche answer, but our standard is real. It's, you know, starting fast, protecting the football, not watching scoreboards, not beating ourselves, playing to the best of our ability as the best versions of ourselves, putting the work in Monday through Friday. I mean, they know all these things, but now it's just a matter of Saturday putting it all together. And, you know, I feel good about our opportunity this weekend. Like I said, I have this optimism because of the players, and they are practicing. They're doing the things that we need to do, and now we're pushing them just to do everything a little bit better to see if we can get a different result this weekend.
Hey, Coach.
Ed, what up?
Not game related, but I think on Sunday, Mercy Falaci from NC State officially joined the program. Just wanted to hear from you, just kind of maybe how that materialized and what kind of stuck out about him.
Yeah, you know, Mercy's joined us as our general manager. Talented guy, played there at NC State, was a big offensive lineman. You know, I've gotten to know him a little bit. You know, we had Will, who worked here, worked with Mercy, came highly recommended. You know, you look at the way NC State has built their program, and I got a lot of respect for Dave Dorn and the job he's done down there with his program and facing them in the bowl game a year ago. A program very similar to ours. He understands the importance of evaluation. I think that's one of the best things we've done as a staff is our evaluation process of who we bring in here, and he'll add tremendous value to that, you know, with the experience he's had running the NC State recruiting office and their program. He wanted to be here. This was a program that he looked at as the type of place he wants to be, and we're excited to have him. Appreciate you.
Last weekend, and then certainly this week's game with Rutgers. Just first of all, just want to congratulate Drew Stevens for being recognized Big Ten Special Teams Player of the Week. Certainly came up with a big field goal, and a couple other guys right now that have made semifinalist list. You know, Cooper DeJean with the Thorpe Award. Certainly Jay Higgins playing great football with the Butkus Award, and then Joe Evans with the Bullsworth Trophy semifinalist. So just happy to see those guys, their efforts really, you know, being recognized. Saturday, certainly a hard-fought game. You know, unique experience certainly for the team, unique environment and challenge that way. And then I think it was probably a pretty special experience for our fans. I imagine they had a good time, and certainly a novelty there. But the bottom line is really just a hard-fought game. Both teams, you know, kind of squaring off there, and then some good complementary football. Start the third quarter. Certainly the good defensive stop, getting the punt block, and then converting that into a touchdown. Goal line stand was, you know, just outstanding by the defense, and they continue to play really well. And that's certainly, you know, something we're going to need. And thought the offense did a great job with the 2-minute offense, executed really well. Good to see the execution there, and then the conversion by Drew, and you special teams are there when we need them. So that's probably, just kind of really representative of November football, and probably more of that to come here in the next couple of weeks, certainly. First thing about Rutgers, I would just say, well, let me back up. I'll tell you the captains, same 4 guys as last week. We got Joe Evans, Jay Higgins, and Logan Lee defensively, and then Luke will be representing the offense, Luke Lachey. Injury-wise right now, I don't see Stevens being ready, maybe, but I doubt it. And then up in the air, got a bunch of guys up in the air. It's that time of year, and it's a physical football game, so that's kind of the situation there right now. Moving on to Rutgers, we played them last year. Certainly, I think it's like night and day right now if you think about it. Played them early in the season. It was the last week of September, I believe, and first Big Ten game for us out there. And so a lot of games have been played since then, and now we're well, deep into the season. And, they were a team trying to get in their footing last year. Now they've got their footing. They're playing outstanding football. It's not a huge surprise. Coach Diano's been there, second tour of duty there, and did a great job building the program back in the early 2000s and really put them in a state of prominence, if you will. And then, he went off to the NFL, several opportunities there, and now back rebuilding this program and doing it in really exemplary fashion. And again, not surprising if you know Coach Diano. He's got a good staff. They clearly have an identity, vision of where they're going, what they want to look like and how they want to play. And bottom line, it's working really well. They're doing really good right now, 6-3 record, and look really good on tape. And they've got a good football team. One of the top running backs in the Big Ten, big physical offensive line, good receivers that'll block, and they're veteran guys. All those guys are seniors, the 3 top guys. Quarterback's playing really well for them. Tight end's a dangerous player, and then they're playing good team defense, and that's it's kind of, you can see it in the process last year. Now it's coming to fruition. So, good job on special teams. Good kicker, good punter. So all in all, it's going to be a big challenge for us, and we're in the process of trying to get ready for that. Just touch on the kid captain. We got Chloe Dinka, who's an 11-year-old from Winterset, and she's dealt with some spinal issues. Had an 11-hour surgery, imagine that, where they took a mass out that was kind of limiting her ability to sit and move. So that was one thing. And then she's had multiple surgeries to battle scoliosis. So as I'm told, she's doing really well. She's a 5th grader now, and her family just finds her to be really inspirational, and just brings a lot of delight to everybody in the family. So it'll be great to have them here Saturday. Look forward to that. And then, just again, it'll be good to be back in Kinnick. Our fan support was outstanding in Chicago. We appreciate that, and look forward to being back in Kinnick and getting support there too. So, throw it out for questions.
As far as the offensive line goes, Mike. Oh, sorry. I apologize.
There we go.
Old habits die young. It's false start. There you go. Scott Docterman, The Athletic. Yep. Okay. Your offensive line.
Awful,
yeah, I know. Here we go. Your offensive line, you had 3 guys who missed most of the game. Yep. And then I think Rusty came in late when Bo got hurt. Where did things kind of stand with Logan Jones, who I think had a walking boot, and then Mason, who's been fighting through an injury for probably the better part of a month now?
Yeah. Time will tell. We'll see how the week goes here. It's November, so we're dealing with a lot of that stuff. We had a lot of it going into the bye. And the bye got a lot of guys cleaned up pretty well, so it helped immensely. We don't have the luxury of taking a week off now, so the guys are working back, and we'll see who can do what on Saturday. But keep our fingers crossed.
Chad Leistico, Des Moines Register. Along the same lines, seemed like to us Tyler Ellsbury stepped in and played a nice game. What could he do for you this week? If he had to step in at center, or maybe even guard if you're light there. Where do you see him kind of contributing, I guess, this week?
Yeah, he did it last year a couple times too, and he's been practicing pretty steady. So first things first. He did a really nice job stepping in. That's tricky, tough position, a lot of pressure, and thought he overall did a really good job. So anytime you do that, it helps earn confidence. First of all, for yourself, I think, and then hopefully at least for yourself, and then also I think you and the coaching staff, the teammates, feel better anytime they see a guy out there and they're working with them and they have confidence. So you never have enough depth. You never have enough guys that can play successfully, and hopefully this will help move him forward. But yeah, I thought he did a nice job, handled himself well, and played with poise. And we'll see how it goes with Logan. But he may be in there again at center, or to your point, he's really a versatile guy. He can play probably all positions on the line. So just really proud of what he did Saturday.
John Steppe, Cedar Rapids Gazette, going up against a Rutgers team that can obviously run the ball well. It seems like your run defense has really taken another step the last 3 or 4 weeks. What do you attribute that to?
It's like our whole team. Everybody's just out there working every day in practice, and we got good guys, good quality guys, got good experience on the defensive side, and the areas maybe where we had the most question marks, guys are doing really well. Jay Higgins, start there, and then Nick's really comfortable now and playing well. And for us, the way we're built, if our linebacker play isn't good, that's going to be an issue. Same thing at the safety play. So, we got 4 pretty veteran guys in those spots, those critical spots, and the guys up front are doing a good job for the most part. And so it's in our conference, you got to be able to play the run. Any conference, I think you really have to be able to play the run if you're going to be good defensively, and we're doing that. This is going to be a different challenge though, because this back is a really good football player. He's got 1 million carries. He's out there all the time. And then their quarterback's a really good run threat too. I mean, he's the guy that is a big part of what they do. So, it's a little different dimension, a little different, division of labor, if you will, out there.
Tom Kakert, HawkeyeReport.com. Kirk, I wanted to ask about Cooper DeJean. He played a little bit on offense. What's kind of your thoughts moving forward with him? How much can he play on offense? What do you kind of see as a max number of snaps? Just general thoughts.
I gave you the wrong answer the other night. I should have said that. I was reading a couple of emails, and people suggested, boy, why don't you get Cooper on offense? But you're asking the $1 million question: how many snaps can a guy play? I know now Kennick played both ways. The game was a little bit different back then, and we didn't have the TV timeouts, and games didn't take 6 hours to play. But it's a tough one. But I do know this: he's extremely valuable on defense. He's extremely valuable on special teams, and so where do you give? Where do you take? And we've got a pretty good thing going defensively right now. So you really worry about disrupting that, and same thing on special teams. If we can get the ball in his hands, he gives us a chance as a return guy. So, obviously, I think he could really help us offensively, but again, so could a Micah Hyde. But, you got to weigh things out and try to make sure you're doing what's best for the overall picture. And that's, and nobody knows, what the right number is, or, when a guy's going to get hurt. You don't know those things. But I know this: we're missing some guys right now that aren't playing, that aren't coming back this year, and we can't take another torpedo on that front. I know that.
Elliott Clough, Rivals. Caleb Brown gets his first catch here at Iowa, wearing a different number late in the game on that ball from Deacon. Just thoughts on that play specifically, but also Caleb getting his first catch here at Iowa.
Yeah, two initial thoughts. It looked like a football play. We had good protection. Deacon stepped up and threw the ball and really made a very nice throw. You hope a receiver, that's why they call them receivers, you hope they'll receive the ball and secure it. I think the more impressive part, he fought for 4 or 5 yards after he got the ball, and that was critical at that point. Just to, we were confident we didn't have to move it too far, but just to move it without putting things at risk. So I thought that it was a great play. The play overall was a great play, and it was good for him to break in, if you will. I didn't realize it was his first catch until after the game, but that's a good start. Hopefully more to follow. Excuse me.
John Steppe, Cedar Rapids Gazette. If you get Noah Shannon back, considering it's 2 weeks ago and they said 2 weeks, if you get him back, what would he really add to this team and this defense?
Yeah, it feels like fantasy football. I just, none of us are getting our hopes up too high, just based on the way things go at the NCAA. So it'd be great to get him back. He's a tremendous young person. You got Nico, you got Joe, who are both 6-year seniors, and Noah's right there in the class. They're all just outstanding players, team members, and Noah's a really good football player. He started practicing here a couple of weeks ago and looks great. So it'd be great. And to me, it's personal commentary. I just think it's the right thing to do. I'm not confident that's going to happen, but there's no doubt it might be the right thing to do. and we'll keep our fingers crossed.
Tyler Tashman with the Des Moines Register. I don't know if Caleb Johnson was out there for a snap on Saturday. Is he dealing with injury, coach's decision? What was that attributed to?
Yeah, and there's no drama or nothing going on. Just playing the guys right now that have practiced the best and practiced best through the bye week, and in our minds have played the best at this point. So but it's an open competition. Everybody's got a opportunity out there, and it's day to day, week to week. That's just how we do things. And watching them on film against Rutgers last year, we ran the ball well. So hopefully we can get them up and running here, and probably gonna need all those guys. So I'm really proud of LeSean. He had one of the worst plays of the season, and since that play, he's bounced back and really played well. And that's what good players do. So I'm proud of the way he's handled that, and hopefully he'll continue to keep playing like he has been, really help us out.
Blake Hornstein, Hawkeye headquarters. Coach, you've had two players in the butt kiss. Jack obviously won it last year. Now Jay's in that conversation. How much of that is the standard and the system you guys have here of developing guys and getting them to that level? And how much of the credit goes to Jay just for the exceptional performance he's had this season?
Yeah. So in our programs, I said earlier, if our linebackers and safeties aren't involved pretty heavily, we're gonna have a problem. So that's a critical position in our defense. All the credit goes to Jay, in my opinion, just like Jack. You get guys, and Jay's a really good story, I think, in that. I don't think he had a Big Ten offer. I'm pretty sure he didn't anywhere. And then, but he's just one of those guys. When you meet him, he makes you feel good, and you feel like this guy's all about football and all about team, and that's who he's been. And I tell our guys all the time, if you're trying to learn how to get good, hang around and look and follow guys that are good, pay attention. And he clearly paid attention to guys like Campbell, Benson, and he's just playing at such a high level. And he's been bumped up there during the season too, but just you can't get him out of there. It's hard to get him out of practice, and great attitude, but he's just he's done a great job. So it's nice to see him get attention. I think he's more worried about Saturday than he is any of that stuff right now, like you hope everybody is.
Scott Docterman, The Athletic. Wanted to kind of ask you about your message for your team. 3 games left. All of the goals seem to be out in front of you, but there's also kind of a razor-thin margin in probably all 3 of these games coming up. How are you handling this approach? Is it day by day, game by game, or is it mentioning what the goal might be at the end of the rainbow?
Well, these guys are all in college. They know what's going on, the big picture-wise, and we're not in the BCS title hunt or whatever that show is that they got going, but my observations going back to 2008, when you start getting involved in discussions about that, pretty soon you find yourself you're out of that discussion real quickly. We should be 3 instead of 2, or 2 instead of 3, I guess is what would the argument be. Remember that one in 2008. So you start getting distracted by that kind of stuff, and next thing you know, you get knocked right on your tail. And that's how this conference is. That's how college football is right now. There's nothing easy about any game unless you aren't competing in it. And razor thin like that. I was thinking about that earlier when we were talking about Cooper. We live in the world of razor thin, for like 25 years. That's where we've been, actually longer than that. So everything's important, and we're not good enough to take our eye off anything, and other than the target, and that's really been the message. We just need to worry about getting better. We need to worry about doing everything we can do to get ready for Rutgers, because we're going to have our hands full just like we did last Saturday. And I'll predict if we get 3 games left, it'll be that way all 3 games.
Shannon Earhart, KCCI. Going back to Jay Higgins, how have you seen him grow?
You see him daily. We see him before you get to see him, so we watch him daily, and he's just everything about him is positive, just everything about him. And then last year, he played significant reps, and besides special teams, played significantly on defense. So, you're watching him first time out there, basically, when it really counted, and doing a really good job. But now it's a whole different deal, because there's a lot of pressure on that Mike, the middle linebacker. He's got a lot of going on, in terms of checks, calls, all those things. things, those guys get loaded down pretty good. I mean, it doesn't look like we're doing a lot, but there's a lot of communication going on. The offenses are doing a lot. So it's a really tough position. It takes a guy some maturity and a guy who's really invested and works hard, and Jay's all that stuff. So, yeah, we felt good about that part of it. And then, how's he going to play? And he's really done a great job. So it's a credit to him. He's just worked his tail off. He cares, truly cares. And, he's just a great young guy.
Adam Jacoby, Go Iowa Awesome. You've mentioned before that Caleb Brown is, young, inexperienced at receiver. You're leaning on him in one of the most crucial plays of the game, and that's not really a position that he's been in weeks past. Did that have to do with Vines being banged up? Well,
yeah.
Did that have to do with Vines being banged up, or just some growth that you've seen from him in the recent weeks, or why was he on the field at that point?
Yeah, I mean, Deontay was out at that point, and it's next man in, next man up, and that's, we talk about it all the time. Some guys listen better than others, but, if you do get opportunity, you never know what's going to come typically, and it is opportunity to do something, get noticed, and, get noticed in a positive way, and came up big in a really big time. That was a critical play, obviously, in the game, and, allowed us to be in a position where we didn't have to go into overtime, which is positive. So, but it's just, him working every day. He is, not an infant as a receiver, but it's really the first year, he's really been in the deal. And I guess last year, I don't know how extensively or, where he was on the depth chart. He certainly wasn't out there in critical times a year ago. So, right now he's getting the work, and he's doing a really good job. He's got good ability, good attitude. So, hopefully now it's just, a matter of, we just got done talking about Jay, his ascension in the last year and a half. Hopefully we'll see the same thing with Caleb. He's got an opportunity here.
Tom Kakert, Hawkeye Report. Kirk, I want to dive into kind of how you guys, margin for error, you've talked about very, very thin right now.
Mm-hmm. We're always thin.
Yeah. But how do you guys, do you teach, coach guys to play in those situations where, it's a one possession game? Because you guys seem to come up on top of those situations on a regular basis. How does that happen?
Yeah, I guess the good news is we get a lot of practice at it, a lot more than some teams, like Ohio State, right? So, but it's again, that's the world we live in. I think a big part of anything you do in life is understanding. I couldn't run when I was playing. I could not run, so that wasn't going to change. So you find a way to be successful given who you are, what your abilities, what your conditions might be. And in football, they change. Injuries change them, weather might change them, whatever. So you just try to, you try to bend and yield towards who you are, what you can do. Our 02 team was very different than the 04 team, but they were both extremely successful. And so, you just try to find a path that's going to work for you at that given time. And it's, as we know, it changes almost daily, certainly weekly. But, now we're 9 games into the season, so, every team starts to build an identity, and I think it's pretty clear who we are, what we are, so let's embrace that and let's work on finding a way to be successful, knowing who we are, and that's pretty much all I know. I mean, it's like, how we've done things for 25 years, and when I was here for the 9 in the 80s, it's pretty much the same deal. It's always funny, or interesting when you get further away from something. I don't know if romanticizing is the right word, but every now and then in fact, I keep a couple just for, reality checks, like our depth charts from 02 or 04, and you forget, oh my God, that guy was second team on that team. Like, hold it, big drop off. So but that's a reality, and it's not that way everywhere, but it's more that way at most schools as opposed to, I was at Pitt in 1980.